No, it wouldn't be a disappointment if they don't end up winning the championship. I do believe it would be a disappointment and would create some issues for them if they don't get to the finals at this point. But look, we saw when the Miami Heat came together with their big three, it took them a year, but ultimately they did get to the finals, and then they got it done the next year. When I look at the age of the Brooklyn Nets stars, it's not as if this is boom or bust. They've got to get it done now. They're gonna have the same cap issues next year that they have right now. I mean, they essentially are what they are. But that said, the issue, if they don't get to the finals, it means that Philadelphia or Boston, I guess, according to J Mac, there's going to be another team that is going to get to the finals, and it's going to be a young team that is now going to have that experience and belief that they are the best team in the Eastern Conference, and that's going to create a greater stumbling block for that Brooklyn team. But as I look at them right now, I mean, we came in, we were thinking, is this experiment going to work? How well is it going to work? What's going to happen? And because they've had a little bit of success, now we're suggesting that it's title or it's a disaster. I can't go there, especially with a first-year coach. But, J-Mac, I got to push back on one thing you said at the very beginning. You said they're getting it done at both ends of the court. Nobody is getting it done at the defensive end of the court in the NBA right now, okay? Defense is not being played. It's why Brooklyn is good as it is, and the question remains, is defense once again in the postseason going to be as important as it has been in the past? And if that is the case, then that's one more reason to question whether Brooklyn is good enough to get it done.
It would be a disappointment if they don't win it all. Now, it wouldn't be a failure. I think it'd be a failure if they don't get out of the East, because they're clearly the most talented team in the East. They've got Kyrie and KD who have won championships. James Harden did not go to Brooklyn, force his way out of Houston to get to the second or third round. He wants to get to the finals for the first time since he was in OKC. So it would be a failure if they didn't win the East. But I think they legitimately should be disappointed if they don't win it all. But I wouldn't call it a failure if they lose to the Clippers or the Lakers in the NBA Finals, because Rick is right. It's tough to come together in one season. We saw the big three in Boston do it with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. But remember, they actually went 7 games in their first 2 playoff rounds. Like, they could have lost early that year in the playoffs. And then, as he mentioned, the Miami Heat, it took them a year to get it done. Last year, you saw the Clippers couldn't come together in 1 year. So it generally does take more than one season together to win a ring. So that's why I wouldn't say a failure. But disappointment, yeah. Because this team potentially, and they'll obviously never be the defensive club that Golden State was. But as Rick said, this is an offensive league now. And hardly anybody plays great defense anymore. I mean, the rules forbid it to some degree. You can't hand check. The floor is so spaced, so you got more land, more real estate to cover. It is an offensive league. What you need to be capable of doing is getting stops when you need to and playing solid defense. And Brooklyn is growing in that regard. Their defense has gotten better. It's not great, and it won't be great, but it has gotten better to the point where it's adequate, which I think is all they need with their offense. But looking at the way they're playing without Kevin Durant, looking at, what are they, 12-3 against teams with winning records, that's by far the best. They swept through the West. They've beaten every single elite team in the NBA, most of them without Kevin Durant, or certainly without their big three together, considering Durant is a superstar that you can drop into the lineup. And yeah, there's a few adjustments, but for the most part, he's going to be fine, and he's going to get his 30 points on 16 shots or a few more. Like, they should be disappointed legitimately if they don't win it all. But it won't be a failure.
I'm with Chris. It's a failure if they don't get out of the East, right? We would agree. listen, that Warriors team that they've been compared to. Wait, Lavar, why are you dropping your head?
Go ahead, finish your point.
Wait,
I'm just waiting for you. I was hoping that you
the
were
Golden
going to just
State
go.
Warriors,
Go ahead.
who somebody just asked LeBron, hey, is this team as good as the Warriors, that Nets team? Are they as good as KD, Clay, and Curry?
Hell no.
They lost one playoff game, and it was when the Cavs hit like 75 threes. They can't sniff that team, okay? And that team rolled. They lost one playoff game the first year. Okay, this Nets team's very good. If they do not get to the finals, Lavar, there's no word other than failure if they fall short.
I agree with you. You kind of went two different places,
right.
though. I mean, I agree with the last part. The first part is what made my head get heavy on my neck. What's interesting for me in all of this is I'm going to qualify and I'm going to deflect. So I'm going to take a little bit from both of you guys, Bucher and Brew. I look at this Brooklyn Nets team, and it is certainly championship or bust for this team. For one, the caveat, and this is where I'll qualify, the caveat here is if Kevin Durant can get healthy and remain healthy long enough for them to make this run. That's the caveat. If they do not have Kevin Durant available, then here's where I deflect and I say, okay, you're looking at a team that they're not going to be able to get it done without having all three of them playing in a harmonious way and fashion. So that's the first part of it. Another reason why I look at it being win or bust is because I'm looking at the West and I'm going to continue to do my little, the little rowing machine, the old school rowing machine. I'm going to keep pushing it down the tracks on the LA Lakers. I think they're vulnerable. I think they're very vulnerable. You guys continue to talk as though there's no reason to have concern about this team because of the two guys that are going to come back and be a part of the team and make them better, and they're going to be world beaters again. And oh my gosh, here we go, hoist another trophy. I think there's concerns. I think they're vulnerable. Then I look at this LA Clippers team, and I don't know that the Clippers believe that they truly can win it. I just feel as though there is something there that doesn't allow me to have a comfortable moment where I say this LA Clippers team really has the ability to go out there and have that killer instinct to win it all. So who does that leave left? The team that I like the most out of the West, which you guys will sit there and curl your faces up and say they lost to the Clippers and all that other stuff. Okay, I get it, but I really like the configuration and the talent and the continuity of the Utah Jazz. I like the Jazz in the West. So when I look at what you're going to have to go up against as the Brooklyn Nets coming out of the East, which I don't see the 76ers unchoking themselves this year in these playoffs. Maybe it's a game between them and the Boston Celtics because they pull it together and start tightening up. But I do see this being an amazing opportunity for a first-year team assembled, first-year coach, first-year players. I see this being a situation where the Brooklyn Nets have a clear view and a clear shot and path to get to that final. And if they get to the final and it plays out the way I'm seeing it play out in my mind, they may see the Utah Jazz in the final. I think it's a great final, but it should be a Brooklyn Nets series to lose or to win, which means to me it renders this a win or bust season for the Brooklyn Nets.
I am stunned at the sneakiness of you guys. Let me start with J-Mac, because J-Mac somehow took is it going to be a disappointment and turned it into is it going to be a failure? Which one are we talking about? Disappointment or
both.
Failure?
Well, the question says bust. All you got to do is read your screen, Rick Bucher. I said, is it officially championship or bust?
Disappointment. J-Mac is saying failure now.
They got to make the finals, Rick. You know this.
If it's a disappointment, then how many teams would be disappointed this year if they didn't win the championship? It can't just be the Brooklyn Nets, right?
Correct. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, but Brooke, how many teams, Rick? I hear what you're saying. But how many teams really can look in the mirror
I'm just asking a question.
We
how
can
many
win
teams would it be a disappointment?
I mean, there's probably, what, four?
Every team that doesn't win.
Four, maybe
Four or five teams
that
can win the title.
say that?
That's it.
Okay, fair. Now,
No,
It's
that
every
can really
team that
think they
doesn't
can
win it. The proper answer and response would be every single team that doesn't win it.
I know, but that's like saying Brandon Ingram
they
thinks
know.
better than LeBron James. So somebody in Maryland says that he's better.
Well done. Well done.
Mama Ingram.
There's certain things that we can just jump ahead and we don't have to clarify.
Okay.
Here's the other thing. You guys keep talking about how dominant the Brooklyn Nets are during the regular season. I knew they were going to be a team difficult to beat in the regular season. When you have 3 stars like that and you're playing night to night to night, you can't game plan effectively to slow them down, take advantage of their weaknesses, to make the ball go certain places. In the postseason, the best of the best are capable of doing that. And that's going to change the dynamic. So to look at the Brooklyn Nets as seemingly unbeatable in the regular season does not mean that they're going to have the same dominance in the postseason when teams that have the personnel to match up and can game plan can change the dynamic. And that is what's going to challenge the synchronicity and the discipline and the togetherness of this Brooklyn Nets that hasn't had time to gel over more than this season. And that's where they become vulnerable. So don't take what they're doing right now and think this is going to be this way when we get to May and June.
Wordsmith slick.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.